Have you ever wondered what truly make a game Genshin-like? Many think it's just the anime open world and the gacha, but every clone that went for those things has missed the mark. Why is that? Because they are only seeing the surface of the things. In fact, while those things did contribute to its success, neither of those things are an essential part of the Genshin Formula. In my opinion, outside of Hoyo vs. Own Game, one title that have successfully nailed that Genshin formula is Reverse 1999. While having no open world gameplay, it managed to capture the true essence of the Genshin formula. Gacha game as a genre have borrowed plenty from MMOs, despite often being mostly single-player experience. They often include things like PvP or guild wars that nudge the player to socialize or to compete. The endgame of these games is almost always to get as high as possible on those server leaderboards. There are two benefits of system like this. First, the system can keep player glued to the game for the social aspect. And secondly, they encourage competitive players to spend more money so they could maintain that edge against other players. Every now and then though, a game like Fate Grand Order or Arknight choose to forgo PvP entirely, willingly giving up a reliable source of extra revenue. Without a forced social system like guilds or PvP, you're not just missing out on the money from competitive players striving for top ranks, you're also giving up a powerful tool for player retention, since social interaction helps keep those people engaged, even when there isn't that much new content. To compensate for that, any post-Genshin era game following Genshin's format needs to deliver consistent content updates and deeply engaging story to keep players invested. But there is a clear upside to this approach as well. Not everyone wants to socialize, and not everyone enjoy the pressure of a guild war with crucial reward that they miss out if they don't participate. Both Genshin Impact and Reverse 1999 embrace this more laid-back design, where multiplayer is an option rather than an obligation. You can have interaction with friends if you want, but there is no pressure to engage in competitive, high-stake modes just to stay relevant. Instead, this game prioritizes storytelling, character progression, and personal enjoyment over the constant grind of leaderboard and ranking. It's a refreshing approach in the gacha space, allowing players to engage at their own pace without feeling left behind. Part of Genshin Impact's genius also lies in its simplicity, despite the hidden complexity that keep things interesting in the long run. Each character has just 3 core actions, yet the possibilities are endless. For instance, you could have a basic attack-focused DPS like Arlecchino, or a skill-based rope-jumping specialist like Niche, all from just 3 core actions. Despite the streamlined mechanics, the game allows for deep customization. You can focus on maximizing personal damage with a powerhouse DPS, but you can also build around powerful elemental reactions like a Hyper Bloom setup with Cookie. Reverse 1999 follows a similar philosophy, keeping its core mechanic approachable. At first glance, you're just tossing out cards at enemies, making it easy for newcomers to grasp. But that's only the surface. If you look deeper, you'll find a wealth of interesting mechanics, such as Anjanala's special contract, SummerWest's unique ultimate, poison-based rotation teams, and incantation rank-up mechanic from different characters, all adds layers to the complexity of team building and gameplay. For most of the games, aside from tougher challenge like Reverie in the Rains, you can play with whatever your favorite character are and do just fine. But if you want to push the limit, there's no shortage of guides or resources breaking down optimal team comps, rotations, and every nuanced mechanic you could imagine. If you look at a gacha game with real staying power, their community usually centers around 2 things, the character and the lore. Sure, complex gameplay can draw in a devoted crowd, but it's much easier for most players to stick with a game when there is an engaging story and a memorable cast of characters. One of the biggest factors that make a story accessible is voice acting. In the anime community, there is an age-old debate about subs versus dubs, with some arguing that subtitles offer the more authentic experience. But the truth is, having voiceover in a language you can understand makes it much easier to consume the story. especially if you're new or not used to reading subtitle all the time. That's why Genshin Impact and Reverse 1999 both put in the effort to fully voice their main story in multiple languages. It's a massive undertaking, but it removes a big barrier for new players, especially those that we don't normally consider weeps, letting them immerse themselves in the world without struggling through walls of text they have to read. Beyond just accessibility, how a game opens play a huge role in keeping player hooked. In fact, I'd argue that Reverse 1999 does this better than a lot of other gacha titles, perhaps even better than Genshin Impact. Right from the start, the game throws you into a fast-paced series of events. You meet the bizarre Captain Regulus right before the storm hits and reverse the world into a different timeline. In the next 2 chapters, you're immediately pulled into a conspiracy involving the organization Manus Vindictae, and before you know it, you have encountered a cast of memorable characters, each with their own struggles, leading up to the climax of the first part of the story. And rather than slowing down, the next 2 chapters keep the pace steady, shifting focus to Vertin's backstory and expanding on Foundation's side of conflict. The story doesn't just explore the large-scale impact of Storm, it also dives into Vertin's personal journey, creating moments of both mystery and emotional depth. What really hooked me in Reverse 1999 early chapter was the perfect mix of fast-paced storytelling and meaningful character moments. I never felt like I was aimlessly watching, waiting for something interesting to happen. The game threw me into major events right away, and every arc left just enough unanswered question to keep me wanting more. The full voice acting made a huge difference too. Even though I don't always read every single line of lore in gacha games, the performance here really brought the character to life, making it easy to stay immersed in the story. If there's one thing I think Reverse 1999 could have done better with its opening, it would have been releasing Chapter 5 at launch. From a gameplay perspective, that might not have been that ideal, but in terms of storytelling, it would have added something crucial: a proper cliffhanger. While Chapter 4 left plenty of questions unanswered, it still wrapped up its arc in a fairly conclusive way. In contrast, Chapter 5's cliffhanger had the kind of impact that could have kept people talking for months. This is something Hoyoverse has been doing for a while. The first version of Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero all stopped at a major cliffhanger after their first big climax. It's a smart strategy that keeps players engaged, spark discussion and speculating while they wait for the next update. By ending on a strong unresolved moment, they ensure that the story stays on people's mind, making the eventual continuum feels even more exciting. If Reverse 1999 had followed a similar approach, its opening could have left an even stronger lasting impression. That said, even without it, Reverse 1999's open are incredibly well done. The combination of fast-paced storytelling, strong character moments, and full voice acting making for a gripping start, one that was able to stand out in the gacha genre. Back in the day, a lot of gacha games not only treat story as an afterthought, characters weren't much better written either. Cute anime girls who adore the protagonist were usually enough to reel players in, and the rest of the game revolved around hooking them with socializing systems. Characters in those older titles were often pretty shallow. Many boiled down to a single trait: I love the protagonist to bits. Well, I don't think that trait itself is an issue. When every character is like that, it eventually becomes monotone. Since the Genshin Formula is light on socializing, its approach to storytelling and character development had to be much deeper. While these games still have familiar tropes, they don't rely on it as a crutch. Instead, they introduced a diverse cast of characters, each with their own personality, backstory, and relationships. In Reverse 1999, characters like Asode and Kakania ain't just random party members. They have a meaningful connection and a dynamic that evolves. You see how their worldview clash or complement each other, making them feel like real people rather than just units to collect. Then there's Regulus, who might seem flamboyant and carefree, but clearly cares about Vertin. There's also Madame Lucy, known as the robot mummy for people who doesn't know the game, sacrificing her own progress to ensure the progression of humanity. This personal struggle and relationships add depth and emotion stake to the narrative, something older gacha game rarely bothered with. Another major shift with Genshin Formula is how characters remain relevant over time. In older gacha games, characters often felt like a one-time sales promotion. Once they were introduced, they rarely show up in the story again. Now, major characters return in later arcs, continue to develop, and stay integral to the world even when they are no longer the meta character. This ongoing presence makes the world feel a lot more alive and reinforce the idea that this character exists beyond just the banners they feature in. Before Genshin-Like came onto the scene, most gacha games didn't follow a strict update schedule. They roll out new content when it was ready or when an event required it. But there wasn't always a fixed patch cycle. One thing that was always consistent though was the release of new banners and monetization packs. Even when there wasn't much extra content, no new story, no major event, no gameplay additions, there would almost always be a new character or unit to pull for. In many older gacha games, updates often felt like they revolved more around refreshing banners than delivering meaningful new content. Major updates like new story chapter or system overhaul could take months, and in between, players were mostly kept engaged through character release and limited time offers. Then, with Genshin Impact arriving with its consistent 6-week update cycle, delivering not just new banners but also a steady flow of story expansions, events, and gameplay additions, it sets a new standard of how frequent a gacha game could roll out content while keeping players engaged with more than just character pulls. Over time, this approach actually reshaped players' expectations. People began to anticipate regular story updates and new events rather than just banner rotations. That's why it's nice to see Reverse 1999 trying to also balance content update with monetization. The game stick to a steady update schedule, with each patch bringing either an event story or a main story update. It's also been adding more event-specific game modes and mini-games, which helps keep things fresh instead of just feeling like another banner cycle. It's good to see more gacha games moving in this direction, actually giving players things to do, rather than just dangling the next meta character in front of them. I wouldn't call Reverse 1999 a perfect game, but I will say that it's definitely putting the effort to make the game better and more interesting. One of the coolest things that we have seen with Hoyoverse games, something very few other gacha titles was willing to attempt, is the rise of side content that goes beyond just in-game events. We're talking about official character trailers, music videos, and animation, things like that. This ain't just simple promo materials. They're polished enough to feel like something you'd see on a streaming platform. And of course, they double as marketing, drawing in players who may not be playing the game at the time. For me, this kind of extra content played a huge role in keeping me interested in Genshin Impact. Until the daily commission was reworked, I usually only play Genshin Impact for 2 to 3 patches a year, because the old commission system really felt like a chore. But even during those breaks, I never stopped keeping up with the new animations, event trailers, and music videos. And every time a new Archon quest dropped, I was right back in. That extra content helped maintain my interest, even when I wasn't fully engaged with the gameplay itself. Reverse 1999 is one of the only non-Hoyo gacha game I know that consistently goes out of its way to create additional content that goes beyond just the game itself. They've released multiple EPs that expand on the game story and characters, along with fun animation that make the cast feel even more alive. This ain't just throwaway promotion clips either. They genuinely add more to the game's world and lore. It's refreshing to see a developer invest in this kind of storytelling, even if it can't be tied directly to their revenue. But that's not the end of it, because there is also fan creations. Back in the day, fan-made arts and musics were purely passion projects, rarely acknowledged by the original work they were inspired by. Only major IPs like Hatsune Miku or Toho consistently nurtured that kind of creative community. With Hoyoverse showing an example though, Reverse 1999 also actively partnered with content creators to produce additional content on the site. And when I say content creators, I am not talking about guy maker like me, because let's be real, we are the least important part of the batch. The most important type of content creator they need are the artists, musicians, and animators whose work can captivate people even if they've never touched the game in first place. That's something most Genshin clones completely overlook because it cannot tied directly to revenue. Instead of investing in a creative ecosystem, they are still stuck relying on the old school marketing tactics. Buzzword, paid promotions, word games, and empty promises, rather than actually building something that would last. At the start, I mentioned that while an open world isn't a part of Genshin's formula, it's a huge part of Genshin Impact's success. When it was launched, no other gacha game offered a fully open world experience with high-end visual that could still run on mobile devices. That wasn't just an upgrade over what's come before, it was something completely new. That level of ambition was a big reason Genshin took off, while many clones that followed struggled. A lot of them tried to copy the visual, the open world on a surface level, but failed to offer something that felt genuinely new. Players didn't just want another anime-style open world gacha game, they want an experience that felt fresh. And while Reverse 1999 didn't break the mold with its gameplay, it took a different approach to stand out. Reverse introduced something rarely seen in gacha games, a fully voiced English story, complete with a variety of accents that give each character a unique identity. Because one key secret of Genshin Formula is to carve out its own space by delivering something new. Both Genshin Impact and Reverse 1999 put a lot of effort into maintaining strong visual cohesion while ensuring the game runs smoothly across different devices. Many developers focus purely on high-end visuals, often at the cost of accessibility, leaving players with lower-end hardware behind. From a business perspective, this makes some sense. Players on weaker devices are often seen as less likely to spend money, but in the process, many gacha games end up alienating a huge portion of their potential audience. Despite being an open-world game with large environment, Genshin Impact was designed to run across PC, console, and mobile, including lower-end devices. However, didn't just optimize the performance, they went as far as modifying Unity's base logic and creating a custom rendering pipeline. Instead of brute-forcing high-end graphic fidelity, they used smart rendering techniques to make lower detail assets appear visually appealing. The result is a game that looks great on high-end PC, but is still playable on phones, something most open-world mobile game hasn't been able to really replicate, and this is only boosted by the existence of Genshin Cloud. Reverse 1999, while not an open-world game, has its own technical challenges. The sheer number of live 2D assets, animated character illustrations, and detailed backgrounds can put significant stress on the device. But the developer clearly put in the effort to ensure smooth performance across different hardware. Whether you're on a high-end PC or a low-end phone, the game maintains stability without excessive lag or crashes. That's especially important for a game like Reverse 1999, where so much of the experience revolves around the storytelling and presentation. It's nice not having to worry about lag ruining a big cinematic moment. Beyond just performance, both games maintains a consistent and polished art direction that makes them feel immersed. Genshin Impact's bright, anime-inspired aesthetic extends beyond just the world itself. It's reflected in its menus, UIs, and character animations, creating a seamless visual experience. Reverse 1999 takes a more cinematic approach, with live 2D animations and a refined interface that perfectly complement its retro-futuristic, time-bending setting. This kind of attention to both visual and performance make a huge difference. When done right, you don't even notice it, but when it's done poorly, it sticks out like a sore thumb. And honestly, I really appreciate when developers actually put in the work to make a game that both runs well and have visual harmony. You've probably noticed by now that I'm a huge fan of both Genshin Impact and Reverse 1999. They each capture my attention in different ways. Genshin for its sweeping open world and vibrant cast, and Reverse for its cinematic mystery and fully voiced cast with different accents. I love how both titles prove that gacha game can be about more than just rolling for the powerful characters. They can offer an immersive journey loaded with memorable moments, dynamic stories, and also have a community that spark endless creativity. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about them. Too often, gacha games get dismissed as nothing more than cash grabs, which used to be true, but Genshin Impact and Reverse 1999 prove that they can be so much more. Whether it's through expansive worlds, engaging story, or dedicated communities, this game keeps finding ways to pull player in beyond just chasing the next banner. Of course, they're not perfect, no game is, but they are evolving, and as long as developers keep pushing for better experiences, I think the gacha genre will only continue to grow in ways we haven't seen before. Anyway, that's just my take. What about you? What make you invested in gacha games? Is that a story, gameplay, character, or maybe something else? Let me know in the comments down below. I know this isn't my usual content, but I just felt like talking about something beyond the meta today. Got a little sentimental there, so I hope you don't mind. And as always, this has been Steambound X. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.